Hello/x/. I've been a lurker for a few years now, and I had a weird experience quite a while ago, but never thought to post it. I'm from a big American city, but one of the nice areas. Little to no hobos, shootings, or gangs. That said, me and a few of my neighbors have had experiences with something we call super tweaker. Now mind you, the first two experiences just sound like a regular tweaker, but I assure you he is not. Most of my neighbors think that he is a ghost/spirit of some manner, and there is a rumor that he got murdered by another tweaker at least a few decades ago. Be me. Be 16. Be at a neighbor's party. Parents very active in the neighborhood social and governmental levels, so I knew a lot of people in the neighborhood and went to numerous get-togethers. One such party. Talking with dad and some other dads in the neighborhood. One dude mentions if anyone believes in Bigfoot. Most say no. I think two said that they didn't know what to think. Conversation drifts to people talking about paranormal shit that they and others they know have seen. Primarily ghost stuff, nothing super intense, just I heard footsteps upstairs, but I was the only one home. One dude speaks up after a bit, says he saw something in the street at night once. He was up late doing some email stuff for work. Living in a nicer small apartment building. Gets up to get some water. Drinking it, looking out the window, sipping the water. Sees a rabbit crossing the street. Neighborhood has a ton of bunnies as a number of single-family homes are there. Sees movement out of the corner of his eye. It's some tweaker speeding down the street barefoot. The rabbit bolts under a car. Tweaker screeches to a halt. Jumps into what my neighbor said was like push-up position, head faced at car. In the blink of an eye, the tweaker's arm whips under the car. Neighbor said that it looked like his shoulder dislocated. Tweaker lets out an audible grunt. Neighbor said this happened in spring, so it was cool enough outside for the windows to be slightly open. Arm whips back, rabbit in hand. Rabbit is raising hell, screeching like crazy. Tweaker bites the rabbit's head clean off. Runs off down the street, turns corner. Neighbor thought he was either way too tired, had some weird shit in his system, or both. Goes to sleep like right after that. Next morning neighbor goes down to the street to check the car that the bunny hid under. Noticeable blood splatter. Neighbor finishes telling story. Says he definitely thinks that he saw the tweaker catch and kill the rabbit, but that the rest must have been his imagination, like the arm bit and speed the tweaker was going at. Rest of us agree. One guy actually says he isn't sure. Says he saw some weird shit involving a tweaker as well. This guy was a bit of a comedian, but he was dead serious when he was saying this. Be him. It's like 11 to 12 at night. He is out walking his toy breed dog, since deceased. Only reason he is out this late is because the little thing was having the runs. Turning onto a block. This block has some nicer old apartment buildings. Dog suddenly stops. Tries pulling, doesn't budge at all, even though this thing is a fucking toy breed, one of those nasty little white dogs with crusty eyes. Mind you, this guy isn't short at all, nor is he weak. He shouldn't have had any issue moving this dog. The dog itself is really obedient too. He pauses for a moment, about to pick up the dog and head home. As he is adjusting the dog leash in his hands, he hears something. Sounds like metal scraping against rock. The trees and small apartment buildings distort the sound's direction. He is glancing around, trying to figure out where the sound is coming from. He is looking down a street when bam! Head snaps over to the center of the intersection of the streets. Some fucked up crackhead has just landed at about the middle of the intersection, and looks like he landed face first. Neighbor stands there, in total shock, thinking that he just saw a crackhead suicide. A few seconds pass, and the crackhead hops back up. Neighbor said the closest he has ever seen to anything like it would be a cartoon character doing a backflip. Neighbor still in total shock and his dog is silent. He said that he can't exactly recall what this crackhead looked like, partially because of how bewildering the whole thing was. But, he said that the crackhead was a tall man, wearing some ragged, scummy shirt, and he said that he only called in a shirt because of how torn up it was. Pants were equally scuzzy, but neighbor couldn't even tell what they might have been. He said the crackhead had patchy hair, and quite literally. Parts looked completely bald, and others grew really long. Neighbor never got a good look at his face though. Said the yellow light of the streetlights made it hard to tell skin color, but that it was probably like a light tan. While neighbor and his dog are staring, the crackhead bolts. Neighbor said that the way that the guy moved was unlike anyone he has ever seen. It was this weird mixture of crazed running and grabbing onto nearby objects like cars or trees, and then propelling forward. Says that had it been in any other context and he would have been laughing at the crackhead's running. But since it was the middle of the night and he not only had no real way of defending himself or his dog and this crackhead had just shaken off a massive fall, he was shitting bricks. The crackhead bolts down the street until my neighbor was no longer able to see him. Said once he was out of the daze, he grabbed his dog and ran straight home. Like half a mile of just running. This dude was fat as shit, mind you. He said that the only way he got to sleep was the exhaustion from the run and downing a dose of NyQuil. After he finishes, half of us think the other two are full of shit, me included, but the other half believe them. An hour later, everyone in eating dinner. I mentioned the stories to my mom. She said that an old guy who used to live a few buildings down from us was talking to her one time. Told her that he'd lived on the street for the last 20 years. Every now and then, he'd glance out his apartment window at night and see the same hobo doing weird shit. Said one time he saw him swinging from branch to branch like fucking Tarzan. Said he saw the guy eat a few animals from time to time. Even said that he saw the hobo snatch a pizza off the top of a delivery car when the delivery guy leaned back into his car to get another pizza out. Mom said she laughed at this. Old guy got all serious and said that when the pizza guy yelled at this tweaker, the tweaker hissed at him. Tweaker scurried up a tree and rips off a tree branch, then just lets himself fall to the ground. Like he didn't just jump or let himself fall to the ground. Old man said it fell like a dead body would. Tweaker lands on his neck/head. Doesn't even pause and lunges at the pizza guy's car and the pizza guy fucking bolts down the street. Tweaker actually doesn't chase him, instead shatters all the car's windows and runs off in the opposite direction. Old guy said he saw that happen at least 10 years ago, and has seen the tweaker several times since, said he looked the exact same as then. Next summer. Me and two friends, I'll call them Jim and Bob. Playing some video. Pretty late, like 11 or 12. Hungry, no money for a pizza. Decide to grab some snacks at the local 7-Eleven. On the way back. Walk isn't long either, only 5 blocks. Bob is in front of me and Jim on the sidewalk. We are all talking, and he turns back to say something. His eyes go wide and he quietly mutters, "Look back." Me and Jim glance back. There is a guy about 3 blocks back, shuffling in our direction. His torso is bent at a roughly 90-degree angle, so that his head and shoulders are sideways. Shitinbricks.html. We quicken our pace into a light jog. He doesn't speed up immediately, but after like 30 seconds he starts shambling faster. We break into full sprint and run the rest of the way home. Running up the stair to house. Look back down the street. He is standing at the street corner, backlit by street lamps. His fucking torso is like a zigzag, the top of it is like parallel with his waist and legs. Get inside, lock doors and close windows and curtains. Feel fucking nauseous, no one wants to eat. We hole up in the basement for the rest of the night. No one really sleeps for more than an hour. Hear a few knocks against basement windows that night. Nothing else happens that night, thankfully. See my neighbor who saw him before, and described what the guy looked like. Neighbor said that was definitely him. A few years later. It's really late, like 1 a.m. Jim has his driver's license. We are on the way to my house. Stop at a stop sign when Bob yells at us to look. To the left of us the super tweaker is on the sidewalk. He is running in some fucked up way towards us. Like each leg, instead of normal running, looks like it's being thrown, at least that's the best way I can describe it. And he is moving fast. Gas. Jim guns it. Hit a speed bump near the end of the street. Gain a little too much airtime. Shitbox returns to earth. Rest in power my suspension. XLS. Car audibly groans. Glance back. Tweaker leaps like 12 to 15 feet into air and grabs a tree branch. Swings up and out of view. We GTFO. Spend rest of night at Bob's place in his basement. Go back next day. Dead, mangled bird and its nest and eggs are smeared into my screen backdoor. Thankfully not much ever happened after that. My family moved not long after. Neighborhood was starting to go to shit for unrelated reasons. Never been back since, and I would rather take a 3-hour detour over driving through there at night again.